All right, it is launch day here again at Invite Ministries, and we were so excited today to announce the publication of Creed to Deed, Living in Apostolic Faith in a Culture of Conformity by my friend Jonathan Lawson. Jonathan, congratulations on the publication of your book.
Thank you. Thank you, Lynn. It's an exciting day.
Yeah, right in the middle of Holy Week, you got your first book out, right? So
Yeah,
there it is.
that's right. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
got my copy right here.
Okay. Very
So,
good. Very
yeah,
good.
it
Yeah.
was kind of a surreal moment last night opening the package when I got home and my family around me and um, pulling these things out. I said, "Wow!" I always dreamed of this day when my first book was published, and this is great. It's got an ISBN number and everything. I mean,
You're official. That's right.
yeah,
I love it. Yeah, there's nothing quite like a launch day. Writing is, I always say, writing is kind of like slow mo excitement with occasional little bursts of fun
yeah,
that happen. So,
yeah, yeah. It's been interesting. Like I said, it's something I've thought about. I've dreamed about and felt really called to for a long time. I mean, a very long time, probably decades. And the process of writing this book, like you said, it's slow, it's cumulative, but then all of a sudden there's this burst of activity, um, kind of setting the deadlines, making the commitment, holding yourself accountable, and then
yeah,
all of a sudden there it is.
yeah, that's exciting. Well, tell us about it. So, what led you to write it? What's Creed to Deed about?
Yeah. So for me, I grew up in a Christian home, but in a tradition that really wasn't familiar with the concept of the creeds. I'd never heard of the Apostles' Creed or Nicene Creed or any of the historic articles of faith, those sort of, the confessions. And I mean, we believed in the Bible. We believed in the what the Bible taught. And as I grew up and got older, I started to do my own research. I started to really dig into church history. And in my early 20s, probably around 22, 23 years old, I discovered the Apostles' Creed. And I thought this was an amazing articulation of the Christian faith that I had been taught, well, line by line. It just very concisely and very clearly laid out the faith that had been passed down to me in a way that
Hmm.
I'd never heard. And I wanted everybody to know. I thought this was something that had been lost to the mists of time, and that I needed, I had discovered, and I wanted to share it with everybody that I knew. Well, I soon found out, of course, that there are millions of Christians around the world who recite this creed every single week, every single Sunday. And so eventually I became one of those. I made my gradual movement into the Methodist tradition. And through those years, began to um, recite that creed as part of my worship practice. But there, I began to realize that even though there were millions of Christians who recited it every week, knew it by heart, many of those people didn't fully
Hmm.
understand what those words that they were saying meant.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
most all of them wanted to know. They wanted to know more. So over the years, it's really been about that, bringing to those who don't know what this is, and bringing to those who do know what it is a deeper understanding of what it means.
So you're lead pastor at Christ Harbor in Tuscaloosa.
That's right.
How long you been there?
So we are coming up on 2 years
Okay.
having been here. Yeah.
Is this a congregation prior to your arrival that was familiar with the Apostles' Creed or the other creeds?
It was, yeah. So they definitely had this as part of their tradition. They were, we are a global Methodist church, and they were uh, founded about 25, 26 years ago.
Okay.
And I followed the founding pastor. So I'm the second pastor here at Christ Harbor. So that's
Wow.
exciting. And
Yeah.
it's been a great transition. It's a really healthy congregation. Give a lot of credit to my predecessor for the leadership that he provided and the foundation that he laid. But yeah, they are a congregation that is familiar with and uses this creed. However, it's also a congregation that brings people in from other non-creedal traditions.
Mm.
So while it's a part of our culture here, as we bring people in, the Apostles' Creed is part of, I guess, assimilation into the culture and into how we practice and how we live out um, our Christian faith. We actually went through this
Did you?
in
Okay.
in a sample form as a congregation last year. So before this was ready to submit for publishing, I actually wrote it for this congregation and allowed and asked our small groups to go through it during Lent of 2024. And so they test drove it for me, gave me some feedback, provided some input, and that went into a final version that then was submitted for publishing.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that was my next question. So the way the chapters are structured, you do some teaching up front about the language of the creed, and then you've got these great discussion questions
Hmm.
that are really very simple and accessible. I want to point that out. So some of the language of the teaching, you're kind of raising the bar, I think, a little bit here in terms of theology, which is great and healthy for our congregations. Like, really, uh, like you say, people I think want that. And sometimes we speak down too much to our congregations. But then we have these questions, which really bring it down to very accessible kind of street way, if you can. I can say that, kind of how it applies. So I think one of the best things I love about this book, and I think it's really great, is that you kind of got both those pieces. You got the teaching piece, and you got this very kind of day-to-day piece in terms of how people respond. And did you see that as well at Christ Harbor when you were going through that?
Oh, absolutely, yes. So coming out of seminary, and I'm a second career ministry guy. I was 15 years in banking before, uh, and but then coming out of seminary, one of the deep convictions I had was that we need to empower the people in the pews, the everyday Christians,
Mhm.
to have a knowledge and a passion for theology
Yeah, that's
and
great.
to understand what they believe and why they believe it. I was always struck by the story from church history surrounding the Council of Nicaea and what led up to it, the Arian controversy, and the fact that the people in Alexandria, not the church leaders, not the theologians, not the pastors, the people would march with placards. They would sing songs and chants. They would have debates in the baths there in Alexandria and that during that time about this controversy of, is God immutable and therefore the Son is a creation, or is the Son eternal? And I thought, wouldn't you love to have a church where people were not only capable of having those debates, but they had a passion and
Mm.
a fire around it? And so everything that I want to do in ministry is about empowering people to not only understand what they believe, but why they believe it, and to engage it in a way that that shares it and just expounds the and spreads the boundaries of the church further and further and further.
You are. I got to say, Jonathan, it's awesome. You brought the Aryan controversy. The 75 live shows we've done, maybe so far, you're the first person to bring that up, and I love it. That's awesome. That's such
Well, and that led to another creed, the Nicene Creed. So maybe that's a follow up yet to come. Who knows?
Yeah, that's great. It's as many people have commented before us, every modern problem in church and culture is just an echo down from the ancient heresies, and
That's
and
right.
that was a big one. There's whether or not Jesus is God was that was teetering on the edge for a while in the history of the
That's
church.
right.
So
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
But this book, as you said, I tried to make it accessible. I didn't want it to be an academic tome. I wanted it to be something that was usable. But again, I don't talk down to people. As a pastor in the local church, which is where I have always felt called. I don't talk down to children. I don't talk down to teenagers. Certainly, we speak at an age appropriate level, but my wife is a teacher. We talk about that in the book in one of my stories. She taught elementary school for 15 years. And she's always told me, she said, kids will rise or fall to your expectations. And I think
Mm,
that's true of all human beings,
mm,
that people will rise or fall to your expectations. I believe in the people of God. I believe in the people of the church. And I believe that not only are they capable, but it's a right. They have a right to engage in their faith in a way that grows them, that stretches them, and empowers them.
mm. That's
you
great.
know, One of the great scandals of our time, I think, is the concept of celebrity pastors, two words that should never go together. And but it's about creating a following rather than creating followers of Christ.
That's great. Let me talk a bit about what we're trying to do today. One of the reasons we do these live shows is to help people uh, promote the book, help support your ministry. There's a couple different ways to buy. If you're buying it, if you're watching this, or if you're sharing the information with somebody else about Creed to Deed, if you're doing an individual purchase, we really like to encourage people to buy those on Amazon because it helps the algorithms, it helps the rankings. We've seen books rise up far enough in the rankings that we've published over the years that it kind of activates something, and no one really knows outside the building of Amazon how these work, but if you get it high enough, it tends to perpetuate. So one of the goals of live shows like this is to say, hey, go buy it, go support Jonathan and his work. And then if the book gets enough sales, then that actually helps bring in more attention to it. Now, having said that, inviteministries.org is our publisher website, which has a store on it. And if you're buying it for the purposes of groups, and you mentioned that you wrote this for groups and for your congregation, you got the questions built in. So I really hope people do approach the book as a group study. And if you're doing that, then it's a lot cheaper to go on our invite site to make those purchases because we've got discounts built in, that kind of thing. So if you buy 5, 10, 20, whatever, it works. So in other words, individuals, Amazon, and bulk on the invite site. So I always want to mention that on launch day to make sure people understand how well to support you.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I look forward to seeing what it does. It's again, it's a fairly short read, um, not overwhelming, but I tried to draw from some solid sources and package it in a way that people would find digestible.
We've gotten some great attention to it already. Some of the endorsements that have come in early. Our mutual friend Jody Ray at Mount Bethel Church. The message God has placed on Jonathan's heart is one our world needs to hear at a time when many Christians are struggling to articulate what they believe. Boy, that's the truth. Jonathan offers a clear path forward through the timeless wisdom of the Apostles' Creed. What impresses me most about his approach is how he bridges deep theological understanding with practical application. See, it's what we're talking about, helping readers not just know the faith, but live it out. I didn't plan that. I didn't realize Jody said that on this quote. So that's perfect. And then Dr. Tennant formerly at Asbury, now at Sanford. Creed to Deed by Jonathan Lawson reminds us afresh why the Apostles' Creed has been used for centuries to introduce men and women to the basics of the Christian faith. Each phrase of the creed is faithfully exposited and concludes with helpful discussion questions, which will make it very useful for small group settings or new membership classes. And he heartily recommends you, as do I, although I don't put myself up on Timothy Tennant's pedestal. But this is great stuff and perfect for groups. I really want to emphasize that today, is especially with our fellow Global Methodist brothers and sisters looking for. I've heard this a lot, Jonathan, as churches are getting settled into their new denominational life, and some of the change is past, and now people are asking questions. Okay, what's next? And there's a lot of talk about studies and looking for good materials. And so I really hope this book responds to that need.
Yeah, I do too. I think it will. I think if someone checks it out, takes a look, I think they'll find that it would be very well suited. As a matter of fact, it's funny. I was talking with Jody last night. He called me and he had pre-ordered. He received his copy and he was just congratulating. And he let me know that actually at Mount Bethel they are planning.
Oh, great! That's
an
great.
upcoming sermon series sometime in the next year, and encouraging people to study this in their groups. So they're going to preach along with it. So excited for that. And of course, it's been great. Dr. Tennant was such an influence and continues to be on me, as he was president of Asbury when we were there, and he was a great mentor. And you know, just coming to Sanford, he's only about 45 minutes away now. It's kind of odd the way that life brings us around, and so we're now able to get together more frequently than we have for the last 10 years. And so he's been a great encouragement and support in this as well.
Last question, dreams and hopes. What would you love to see happen with this ministry of writing?
Oh, well, as I said, this is my first book, so I hope to be able to follow this up with more resources that can make a contribution. More than anything else, you know, I don't want to. I don't look at this as a career. I don't look at this even as a legacy per se, as far as a catalog of books. But I want to. I hope that in some small way I can make an impact on the faith of the people, and help the church in this age to be strengthened, to go deeper, to have more substance, and to be more powerful. So we'll see what comes next. I'm working on several ideas. I mentioned a couple to you, and we'll see what resonates. But yeah, I look forward to continuing to take everything that's been poured into me over these last 10, 15 years and give back as best I can to the church.
That is great. Well, I'm so honored to make your acquaintance and get to know you as we've been doing this work together. Love the book. I think you've just done an outstanding job with it. Honored that it's part of the Invite canon now. Can't wait to see what happens with it and how it's being used to help the kingdom.
All right. Thank you, Lynn.
All right.
I appreciate all that you've done.
Creed to Deed. I'll go get it today. Living an apostolic faith in a culture of conformity. Launch day for Jonathan Lawson.